I want is big freaking robots fighting big monsters for 90 minutes. I'm good. That's it. I don't screw plot. I want big things fighting each other and smashing buildings and cities. That's what I want. It was just like when the first Pacific Rim came out, people were all critical about it. Go, oh, this is nothing but big monsters and big robots fighting. And I was like, did you not watch? Did you not watch the trailer?
That's the point.
Like, that's the entire point. It was Guillermo del Toro's ode to Godzilla films. It was like, here, two big things fight and destroy big things. There you go.
Yep.
All right, let's get this ball rolling, folks. Are we ready?
Sure.
And welcome to a third time's a charm. Yes, it's another special, and it is October. It is horror season. Hope everyone's getting a good jump on their 31 days of horror. And tonight we are going to talk about the third in a franchise, as we do with always our third time's a charm special. And today it's a special one. It is Halloween 3 Season of the Witch. And I've got a great crew with me tonight to talk about this most interesting installment in the Halloween franchise. First off, the diva of the spoiler room is back. Hello, Dawn. How are you?
I'm sleepy.
You're sleepy. Well, I'm glad you're staying awake enough to talk about Halloween 3 and joining us tonight. So looking forward to hearing your thoughts on this film. And next to her is the BFD himself. He is Glenn Bittner. Hello, Glenn. How are you?
I'm on vacation.
You sound like it.
I got one more day.
Well, not only is vacation, but we also do have the Northeast Wisconsin Film Horror Festival coming up in just a few days, which we will all be at. And I'm looking forward to that. And for those of you, give you a little sneak peek. Next week's episode is going to be our faves of the fest. So we'll be talking about films that showed at the festival. So that'll be a lot of fun. Tune into that. But tonight, before we get that far, tonight we are going to talk about the one and only Halloween 3 Season of the Witch from Tommy Lee Wallace, made in 1982. So we have Halloween 3 Season of the Witch. And do one of you fine folks want to give the summary, or you want me to hit the IMDb and see what it says? Don't all jump at once. Huh?
Knock yourself out.
All right. Well, here we have kids all over America wanting the silver shamrock masks for Halloween. But we have Dr. Daniel Shallis he seeks to uncover a plot by Silver Shamrock's owner, Connell Cochran, to, do mean and nasty things to people all over the world through his masks and a boulder from Stonehenge. Damn it. I almost got through this without laughing. Okay. So, Halloween 3, as you guessed, there is no mention of Mike Myers. There's no mention of any of that because Halloween 3 is a sequel of a different color. Dawn, when you first saw Halloween 3, how did you feel?
It hurt. And I get the point of it. I really do. John Carpenter was going for something different. He wanted to do a Halloween themed franchise, not a serial killer franchise. So I get where he wanted to go with this. And when I say it hurt, I meant the music. It just was like taking an ice pick into my skull for 90 minutes.
Sorry.
Actually, your version is much more pleasant. It's not that shrieking, horrible. It reminds me of when I was like 8 or 10 years old trying to play violin.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that is a bad sound. And Glenn, how about you? Your feelings on Halloween 3 Season of the Witch when you saw it?
When I saw it, I went, what the fuck was that? Because because it wasn't a Halloween movie.
Mm-hmm.
It was like it's in no way attached to the series at all.
And in fact, it gets meta because it actually has footage from the movie playing on the TV, which I totally forgot about.
Yeah, it does at the gas station.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, I'm not going to go as far as to say this is a good movie, though I know our good friend Scott Davis
and Mr. Derek Carey.
Oh, well, yeah. Okay. Great. They can
fans.
They can love this one, but man, it's just there's that premise as if you just made your own movie, it still wouldn't be good. but the fact, for at least for me, the fact that it's called Halloween 3 and it has nothing to do with the original series, it just makes it feel that much worse for me.
Mm-hmm.
Because here it gave this expectation, hey, Mike Myers. Oh, there's no Mike Myers. Well, it's like great. I heard that they've announced a new Friday the 13th movie, which is about a family that takes a trip to Texas and eats snow cones. That's it. That's what it is. But it's Jason goes to Texas, but there's no Jason in it. I mean, that's pretty much what you get. It's not a Halloween movie.
It takes place on Halloween, but that's about it. You guys made me feel better, and I do apologize now to Mr. Derek Carey and Mr. Scott Davis, who love this film greatly, and I can see the appeal. For me,
I do not apologize.
For the first time I saw this, and in fact, it's been on my worst horror films. I never really enjoyed this film. I like the people in it. It just you're right, especially when I was younger and I saw it, since it had Halloween 3, Halloween in the title, Halloween 3 is supposed to be part of the franchise, nothing to do with Mike Myers. It was really tough, especially for the age I was, to wrap my head around going, what do you mean this is a Halloween film? And watching it again for the show, it's one of the reasons why I wanted to do this one. I wanted to see where it fit for me or where it sits. And it is off of my worst of horror films, but I still really found very little to enjoy in here, except for Mr. Tom Atkins, maybe, the performance of the people, and Dan O'Hurley. I like the performers in this at all. It's just, it was like, oh man, it was tough to go over. And I think part of it is the fact it was part of Halloween 3. Dawn, do you think this film might have sat better had it been released under a different name, or just, Season of the Witch or something not included in the Halloween franchise?
I thought about that a lot as I was watching this,
mm-hmm.
And wondered if it would have just been a separate from the franchise, just called Season of the Witch. I couldn't figure out why it was called Season of the Witch, but if it would have been, separate from this. And I realized that the story itself, as preposterous as it is, that doesn't matter to me, because there's a lot of stories that are preposterous and they're still fun, decent stories. I think the problem for me was this movie was about an hour too long. Seriously, there was so much that happened in this movie that didn't need to be there. It was a great concept for about a 30-minute film that was dragged out to include a whole lot of misogyny and a whole lot of gratuitous, a whole lot of things that made no sense. I mean, starting with, I really did not like Tom Atkins' characters.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that about 2/3 of his entire backstory could have been done away with entirely.
Yeah, I mean, it added a little because he has kids, but that's as far as you needed to go
No,
with
you
it.
didn't even
But
need to do that.
you don't think so?
No, because he was totally a dick to his kids.
That's true.
He totally ditched his kids on Halloween to go bang some woman he just met.
Wait. He hadn't planned on banging her at first. He was just helping her
Come
investigate.
on.
He was just Glenn, help me out here.
Help you out. I mean, in his defense, she was hot.
She was pretty.
Stacy Nelkin. So yeah, I mean,
which really isn't a defense when it comes to being a responsible parent.
No, it just
that's just going to buy you more therapy for those kids.
Well, I don't know if they were tapping on the early 80s trend of how divorce was on the rise and such, so they were playing at that, but it was tough to get behind his character because his character wasn't exactly the most likable guy. Would you agree with that, Glenn?
No, he's not likable at all.
Yeah. I mean, you're hoping for some kind of redeeming factor.
If you want a likable guy, you don't cast Tom Atkins. I mean, not like saying he personally is a bad guy. I don't know anything about him personally, but his acting, he comes across as like kind of abrasive and a little bit of that, that machismo and kind of a dick.
Yeah, he's very good at what he does, and having him in a hero role like that, that wasn't appropriate.
Well, because I mean, we're introduced to him at the beginning. He is the doctor, and how he gets tied up into this is some guy's brought in who is brought in by a gas station salesman. Because the movie opens, they kind of lead you a little bit like, well, maybe you've got a Mike Myers thing because you got the guy on a lonely road running away from something, so you're kind of hoping you see, the eyebrowless William Shatner mask and a butcher knife, but no, we don't see that. We see Pee Wee Herman's lost cousins in a car chasing him, and he goes to the hospital, and the doctor checks him out, and then the guy who is getting chased by these unusual looking gentlemen, he gets his head crushed, basically, death in the most unusual way, and then the killer blows himself up in a car. Yeah, and that's how it starts the mystery. And there's a mask involved, the silver shamrock mask. It threw me that this guy is chosen to investigate the silver shamrock masks. He wasn't really a detective. Did that throw you off as well, Glenn? Why is this doctor investigating?
Yeah, well, why? Because he's being led by his penis. That's why he's investigating. Why do most guys in movies do something that they have no reason to be doing because they're chasing a girl? That's usually why. Yeah.
It felt like they were trying to play a little like because I didn't feel much like he was that attracted to her until, they were in the motel and she asks him, they're talking about where he's going to sleep tonight. And she goes, "Is that where you want to sleep?" And he goes, "What was it? Like, what do you think?" Or something. And then he kisses her. And then something happens. Don, did you think it's unusual this doctor is going into doing the investigation? Could they possibly try to give him a different role, maybe? As far as an occupation?
As far as an occupation, yeah, he definitely, it would have been probably for the story more appropriate. But I don't know. It was already established that not only was he a doctor, he was a drunk doctor because his ex-wife kept accusing him of drinking and, bailing on his kids and all that stuff, which he does throughout the entire movie. Um, but he was also kind of eyeing up this woman from the very beginning of when she was introduced. So no, it did not surprise me. I mean,
and then they go like rabbits too. It's like, holy crap. It's like, in between investigating the evil Shamrock Corporation and finding out where her father was, they have lots of sex, I guess. It just was odd. The way the film plays out, it was odd because you have a doctor trying to do the investigation, which I know, and I can hear it already. I can hear our good friends who love this movie out there screaming at us, but it just didn't fit right with me. I'm like, why is he? I understand a little, but yeah, the motivation, but it even felt like it escalated way too much from him liking her to, hey, let's go bang.
Yeah. Well, yeah, him going, okay, I'm going to do you a favor by going and helping you figure out what happened to your dad because you're pretty and maybe I'll get something. Yeah.
Now, I kind of dug the company town when they go to investigate Silver Shamrock and you have the company town. I did kind of, I enjoyed those bits, the creepy town. Don, would you want to see more of the creepy town a little bit, some of the townsfolk? Because it seemed like there might have been some interesting characters there, but we don't really see too much of them.
I would have liked to have gotten more of that backstory. Why was there a 6 o'clock curfew? And by the way, some of my favorite parts of this movie were the voice of Jamie Lee Curtis as the phone operator and the voice of Jamie Lee Curtis as the intercom person telling everybody that the 6 o'clock curfew was in effect. Right. I like that. There were parts of the movie I liked.
Well, me too. I enjoyed those parts. How about the tourists too? The tourist characters who eventually meet an evil and nasty fate.
The salesman, the one that had sold more masks than anybody else. Yeah, those were fun. Those were fun characters.
Yeah, I think there are a lot of interesting side characters I would have liked to explore more. What about you, Glenn? Would you have liked to see a little bit more, maybe following or introducing us maybe a little bit more of why this town was the way it was?
That would have been interesting. I mean, what I've been doing with movies that I'm not enjoying, I work out conspiracies about what they're actually trying to say. And I had not originally done that with this one until I did a little bit of digging into it. And yeah, that would be nice. But I mean, then it would uncover, secrets that people don't want uncovered. Right? Right. So yeah. That's why it was that's going to be the only logical reason for it having been left out, because otherwise you would have made a better movie.
Yeah, because I dug he had the bum character in there, who used to work it, and you had, the interesting guy with the because it was like a whole Irish town, in the middle of California, but you had the Irish hotel owner who seemed like a really interesting character. You had all these side characters that I thought would have been really cool to at least see a little bit more interaction with. And oh, here they are. Now they're gone. Yeah, and then we have our villain Connell Cochran, played by Dan O'Hurley, if I pronounced that right. If I mispronounced it, I do apologize. But I really like him as an actor, and I liked his villain in here, though. His motivation of witchcraft, which, Dawn, I think that's where the season of the witch comes in, because they were doing the sacrifice like, I guess, witches did 3,000 years before, and for power, I guess. I'm not quite sure on the full motivation of why they were doing the sacrificing, but
it shouldn't be called Season of Witch. It should be called Season of the Grandpa Warlock.
Did you like our villain at all, Glenn?
Not especially. I mean, he's just it's No.
I liked the actor.
Oh yeah, I like the actor.
Don, how'd you feel about Cochran?
I like the actor. I give him credit for trying to. I give him credit for trying to use, at that time, less known religious history, Samhain, and what they thought was trying to explore the origins of Halloween.
Sure.
But they got it wrong. But that's okay, because people have been getting it wrong for hundreds of years.
Mm-hmm.
So I give him credit for trying to come up with, and I give him full credit for pronouncing it correctly. It's not Samhain, people, it's Samhain. So I give him full credit for that. But seriously, how can you transport the little joke about transporting that giant stone from Stonehenge into the basement or whatever they were? This Santa Mira, yeah.
I almost feel that this needs I need to do like this hair thing and be like aliens, that's how they moved it.
I'm not saying it was aliens.
Not saying it was aliens, but aliens.
But aliens. Well, for me,
they used Star Trek technology. They used a transporter.
Yes, they used a transporter. Actually, Connell Cochran carried it on his back through customs, and since he's rich, he was able to get it through customs with no questions asked. Yeah, for me, when I liked the Clockwork People. I thought that was interesting. In a way, all of his Clockwork guys. Glenn, how'd you feel about the Clockwork guys?
They're fine.
Mm-hmm.
For guys who can rip a human's head off and crush skulls, he really needs to do something about that really weak interior stomach area that you can just punch through pretty easily.
Well, it is Tom Atkins, so
I suppose, but yeah.
Don, did you like the Clockwork People?
Yeah, I kind of did. It was a nice. They were pretty decent villains. What I really liked was that lady doctor, whose name I'm not remembering. That lady doctor who figured out what was going on from actual investigation and research, without making bizarre intuitive leaps and banging Tom Atkins.
Well, there's implied that there's wanting to be banged by Tom Atkins.
Yeah, it was implied, and it was implied that there was an ongoing affair there.
Yeah.
But I really did like that it was the lady doctor who figured out what was going on completely independently from research and not running around half-cocked.
Yeah, well, not only that, I mean, she was the expert. He went to her because he couldn't figure this stuff out. And she was the one going, yeah, you know what? Unfortunately, she met an untimely death, and she kind of wanted, into Tom Atkins' pants, or there was some kind of history there. But I at least like their relationship a little bit better, though he does give her the kiss, before he leaves the first time, which I'm like, did we really need that? We got the idea the first time, guys. But again, he's the stud of the film, which for whatever reason. But yeah, I dug the Clockwork guys. I thought they were cool. And you're right, though, the abdomen, you got to work on that abdomen work because, it's a little too easy to punch through his stomach. So, but for me, when I watched this when I was younger and still today, I just chuckle. And I almost wonder if Carpenter isn't trying to do poke fun at horror films, because I just chuckled when they go downstairs and they see the Stonehenge stone. And I think when I was younger, even today, that really checks me out of this film. Don, when they get to that point when they're talking about Stonehenge and the stolen stone and that it has power and they're trying to harness it, did that just kind of really just check you out finally from this film if you had any hanging on of any interest in the movie?
not so much that there's power in the stones of Stonehenge, but that they were actually mining the stone itself to put in these little seals that they were attaching to the masks. That's the part that broke me. I mean,
it didn't, and there wasn't that much mined off of it either. So they've just been able to use the powder because they proved that they could just use the powder. So they were getting a lot of mileage out of that stone. Well, you know, and for me, I'm like, okay, you're going to do mass murder on a global scale with the Halloween masks. All right, I see. We're building this up. We just blew up this scope. But at the other hand, I'm thinking of going, what's your end game after that? Because people are going to know it was your masks. So then what? You know? And I know you shouldn't think probably that deep with a horror film, but really, Glenn, what do you think their end game would have been, you know, after the masks, if the masks are successful, which later on in the film we find out, yeah, they couldn't turn off the one channel, which,
you know, it's amazing that they turned two off just by some guy calling and screaming into the phone. Because that's how, you know, advertising works, is when a crazy man calls and tells you not to run a commercial, you stop running it.
Well, and he only had to call one number for all the channels.
Well, yeah, there's one number that handles all TV commercials.
Turn it off. No, turn. And then he goes, that third one. He doesn't give him a channel number. He goes, that third one. Turn off that third one. I'm like, oh, come on, really?
I'm just on top of the fact that really every kid has those three masks. Every kid.
Only those three masks.
Only those three masks. No one wanted to just be your standard. I mean, anything else. When this was made, no kid wanted to be Underdog or a Smurf or something else.
I saw one girl wearing a cute little Casper outfit with one of the three masks.
It's one of the masks, of course.
Yeah, that ending especially. Just I'm like, okay, fine. You're taking out the clockwork people. I got you. You're the hero. Okay, you come up with a way to use the medallions against our Cochrane guy. Okay, I get that. But then him trying to stop it by calling, I'm just like, come on, you're really, you know. And like you said, the three masks, at least make 5. And hell, make one of them the Mike Myers mask if you want to keep going meta.
That would have been good. It really would have been.
I think that would have been a nice twist.
It would have been a nice twist.
The way this film ends too, I'm like, I know what they're going for, but at the end of it, Glenn, do you think he was going for satire with this?
I honestly, I don't have a clue what they were going for this other than a money grab.
Yeah,
I mean, there's no reason at all to call this Halloween 3 unless you were just trying to get money off of the name of Halloween.
Yeah, well, they were cashing in on the franchise. Either
absolutely, it's nothing but a money grab. That's all this movie is.
Would you say the same thing, Don? That because it almost feels like it's just a satire.
It's entirely possible. I don't know. Satire or not, it was poorly done. It was just a really bad idea.
Well, it is brought to us by the director Tommy Lee Wallace. This was his first film, which he also wrote because Carpenter produced it, but Tommy Lee Wallace wrote and directed this film, and he would go on to do It, actually.
Yeah.
We do have one listener in our spoiler room chat, and they said they would have liked to see one of the masks be a clown mask, and I think that would have been cool and kind of a good full circle, considering he directed It years later. That'd be kind of a neat foreshadowing thing, or you at least need a clown mask because clowns are creepy as hell.
So I have a question for you. What did you think about what it was revealed that the masks actually did?
I was trying to. Yeah, let's go into that. What the it's electronic witchcraft is what I got, because it's an electronic device that's signaled by the flashing pumpkin commercial, but it actually spawns crickets, and then as it keeps going, it then upgrades from crickets to little snakes to big snakes. So what are we doing? Witchcraft spells by proxy? That was like, I couldn't get. I'm like, why are you making it so it turns into bugs? And it's like, I know it's witchcraft, but at least something, make them maybe something more useful, like zombie, take over their minds or something. But I don't know. That was really weird. I think it was just them trying to be different and do something really weird, but it felt like witchcraft from proxy. Glenn, what about you? What when these medallions cook your head and turn you into bugs and snakes?
Except for the fact that technology and magic don't mix.
Well, according to Halloween 3, they do, though.
Halloween 3 is wrong in a lot of ways. With how they handle magic, and the transportation of a 4-ton stone.
Yeah. I mean, as much as Carpenter built up the Halloween franchise, the two films, they made such iconic film, to come out with something like this to be such drastically different, when probably would have been a lot more palatable to a lot more people had you just released it under a different title. I mean, for me, I think that would have probably been more acceptable, at least. But would it been a fact of, did they think maybe the story wasn't strong enough to stand on its own? What do you think, Don? You think maybe they went with the Halloween name because they wanted to, one, launch an anthology series, but two, possibly this was the best story they had for this, and they didn't necessarily think it would do well as an independent title?
I think that's probably it. I do. I think he wanted to go with I think he wanted to go with more of a themed series rather than a running series about specific characters.
Mm-hmm.
And it failed miserably.
Yeah.
And like I said, I think this movie would have been a good movie if they would have cut about an hour out of it. I can totally get behind that. Preposterous, yes. But I don't. I do think that they were trying something different and it backfired.
Mm-hmm. Maybe they weren't quite aware just how rabid a fan base they had.
That could very well be.
I mean, even release it instead of Halloween 3, say, Halloween anthology, something, or...
Well, and considering this was 1982, a lot of the big franchises didn't have a whole lot of connection. If you look at franchises like James Bond or things like that, I mean, you had one or two movies that had sequels, but they were all independent stories, not necessarily one following the other.
Yeah, but those aren't labeled James Bond 1, 2, and 3 either.
Correct.
I guess that's maybe what was tough to get over with that. I mean, Glenn, what do you think? Do you think they didn't think it was strong enough to stand on its own? Maybe that's why they went with the Halloween name? Or?
I think that's quite possible. Yet they were making a movie and they're like, wow, this is not going to make a dime if we don't do something, because, I mean, is Tom Atkins' name alone going to carry a movie? No. So let's, what other properties do we, hey, we own the Halloween franchise. Why don't we just slap Halloween on this? And then someone probably said, but it's not related to those. And which person, the guy in charge said, well, we want money. You're fired, and this is Halloween 3.
Oh man, our listener who's in, we don't often get listeners for this, so this is awesome. Actually, they threw out a question real quick about the devices with the masks, and we'll go back to this because I want to get your take on it. We'll start with you, Glenn. They asked, it's Stonehenge stone turned Cochran to stone. Shouldn't the masks have turned the kids to stone as well? Would you agree with that, Glenn? Because it turned Cochran into stone. At least it seemed to.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, you're trying to figure out what makes sense in this movie. I mean,
Tom Atkins as a stud, maybe. I don't know.
No.
No.
I mean, I suppose for the 80s, yes.
Yeah, because we are talking 82 here. So one, you've got a different time period, and two, they still were trying to figure out how to do sequels because a sequel was kind of a foreign concept for most film studios. So, they were still trying to feel their way around it. Don, what about you? Do you think Stonehenge stones should have probably turned the kids to stone instead of becoming, insect spawns?
It would have made more sense.
Mm-hmm.
It really would have. Especially because they were tinkering with making the clockwork people.
Right.
And so going with the concept of causing humans to be inanimate objects would make more sense with the theme they were already working with, although, as Glenn has pointed out, there's no real theme and not a whole lot of sense. But it would have made more sense than, causing their heads to suddenly become a nest of insects and reptiles.
It's so off the rail. And I like off the rail movies, but just for some reason, the way this one is, it just feels like a patchwork story of sorts, almost, like they were just flying by the seat of their pants while they were making this, rather than actually having a solid goal. Because this ending really too just felt like, okay, now we're gonna end it. I'm just like, okay, I mean, he doesn't. I don't know with this film. I found some better points in this film than I did when I first watched it, but it was still kind of a rough watch to see because my brain just kept trying to piece some things together that didn't. I mean, let's also look at the fact of that tourist family was at that factory for a hell of a long time.
Yeah.
I mean, it's nighttime. Atkins already, had sex twice, and he's on his way now to investigate, because they went after her. And so he goes to try to retrieve her, which was his actual motivation to go back to the factory, was because the Clockwork Men came to kidnap his woman now, not his future woman or his past woman, his current woman, because he had a lot of women. So he goes to the factory, and it's like, oh man, it just something in this film.
Well, and that whole thing, it's something that bugs me. Movies have done this in the past before. It's by the way, she's also a synthetic person now.
Yeah.
Who helped kill everyone at the factory. What? Why? Why didn't she just throw his ass off the catwalk?
Yeah, why did she wait till the car to try to kill him?
Yeah, she waited till they blew up everything, and then it's like, oh, that's right, I was made to kill you. Sorry.
Yeah, that's
old version of DOS. I had to reboot there, I guess.
Old version of DOS. Well, she got away. She got out of the Wi-Fi signal, and then No. This was in '82. It would have been no Wi-Fi. She would have had to been next to a phone and then made a lot of loud noises, which would have been funny.
They didn't even have that back in '82.
No, they had phone modems.
They had not in '82.
Well, they had where you could put them on the base. Oh no, that was later. That's true. You're right. That was a few years later. But they were still working on the internet, as not like we know it today. But
yeah,
so she could have plugged in maybe somewhere next to a mainframe, so she could reboot. Which still, I like the idea of the clockwork people. Those were my favorite part of this film.
Clockwork people, which are synthetic people, and people are wearing masks because they have something to hide. And it just so happens that Stacey Nelkin was originally cast as Mary, the infamous sixth replicant in Blade Runner, which is about synthetic people, which are actually already among us in real life. And this film was foreshadowing of that, trying to warn us of this coming replicant revolution that's going to happen before Blade Runner even reached the theaters, I think. Or was Blade Runner out first? Or was it out first, but we only think it was because we were programmed to think that because we're actually replicants ourselves.
Okay, someone needs to take Glenn's NyQuil away. Really bad. And this came out the same year as Blade Runner.
It did come out the same year as Blade Runner. And she was cast in Blade Runner.
She was cast in Blade Runner.
She was the... If you're weird like me and you read about movies that you really love, there was supposed to be another replicant, Mary, but because the budget kept going higher and higher and higher, it was cut.
Oh, wow. And Stacey Nelkin would have been cast as Mary?
She was cast as Mary.
Oh, she was? Oh.
She was cast as Mary.
Well, that is creepy. Maybe Stacey Nelkin really is a synthetic.
I think she might be.
Yeah, that or I haven't had enough Not Your Father's Mountain Ale.
Yeah. I love reading things and finding out. It's also the fact that, here we have Atkins' character who is such a terrible father, and apparently in real life Stacey Nelkin is like a parenting expert. That's like what she did. That's like what she did after acting.
Really?
Yeah, apparently.
That's cool.
Like a relationships expert and a parenting expert. Had like I don't know if she still does, but like YouTube and a website and all that stuff.
So here's the thing. You make, I know tangentially, but you make a really good point. A movie that's really good and makes you want to learn more about it, such as Blade Runner, is an excellent movie. Yes, it was critically panned. Yes, it didn't make a lot of money at the box office, but it's an excellent movie. It has survived 40 years, 30 years, 35 years.
35, yeah. Right, we're old.
We're old.
But it's still such a good movie that we're still talking about it. It's still relevant. And then we have Season of the Witch, which yes, we know Derek and Scott enjoy this movie. And I'm sure that if they were here with us, they would give us a tremendous amount of backstory and behind the scenes information on why it's a good movie. The problem is, without having that backstory and behind the scenes stuff, if you just look at it as it is without taking the time to research it, it's not a very good movie. And I don't want to research it to find out why I should think it's a good movie.
Would you say as well, Glenn, that if you don't know the backstory or whatnot, that
I mean, the movie has to interest you enough. I mean, aside from just the what the fuck were they thinking, that's not to make me go digging. If it's more along the lines of, man, what the hell were they thinking? That is what was going on. That's what makes you want to look into it more, not I don't understand what just happened. This made no sense at all. Mm-hmm. It's not that it left you like wanting more or wanting to know more. It left you going, I just wasted my time.
Right, because he doesn't really have much of an arc. Maybe you think at the beginning, his Dr. Chalice character is an asshole to his kids and putting them off and just a stud muffin and all that. But by the end of the film, he suddenly realizes the value of his children And, you know what I mean, though, what I'm saying. You don't really have an arc for him. Mm-hmm. And he doesn't really accomplish anything because he can't turn the third one off. Not the third channel, just the third commercial off. So he doesn't even really stop the bad thing from, happening. He kills the bad guy, but so you're at the end going, what did this film really accomplish? I mean, what was its real point here besides cashing in on the Halloween 3 series? I don't know. I tried to find, and I did find a few more things enjoyable in this film than the first time I watched it. But on the whole, I still am probably not going to revisit it. Now, as far as other sequels go to the Halloween series, I will say it is one of the better ones of the sequels. Dawn, what do you think? Of the other Halloween sequels past 2, would you say it was probably one of the better ones?
I like anything that has Jamie Lee Curtis.
Oh, well, there you go. So you liked H2O then?
Yes, I did. Don't judge me.
I'm not going to judge you. We never judge on here. Our tastes all run differently. What about you, Glenn? Would you say it's one of the better of the Halloween franchises? Films?
I have not seen all of the Halloween movies.
Okay.
But it's obviously worse than 1. It's worse than 2.
Sure.
I would say it's worse than the what's his face remake.
Rob Zombie remake, yeah.
Rob Zombie, yeah.
The first one.
Definitely.
Yeah, no, it's not one of the better ones. Of the ones I've seen. I mean, how many Halloween movies are there? 83?
I think there's 8.
Man, that just seems like too many. But that's most of them.
I think.
Yeah, I don't think I ever saw Curse of Michael Myers, and beyond that. So, no, that's not. I mean, I saw H2O and I saw Resurrection.
Yeah, not including the remake.
Not worse than either of those, but it's of the ones I've seen. I've seen Revenge. I've seen Return. This is worse than both of those.
Yeah, I think for its silliness, I enjoyed it more than I enjoyed it more than 4 and 5. I like Curse of Michael Myers a little more, but that's because that was my first movie that I went to see with my wife at the time, was my girlfriend, or going to be my girlfriend. That was our first date. We ate Chinese and saw Halloween 666. How romantic is that? Yeah, 20 years later was okay with Jamie Lee in that, but it's one of my I'd say out of the other sequels, I enjoyed this one more than most of the other ones. And it's 8 films, not including Zombies remake and then his that sequel he made, which I'm still trying to wrap my head and figure out if I like or not. I don't think I did at all. But as we do with every one of these Third Time's a Charm films, we do look at the box office of the first 3 films. And the first Halloween, according to Box Office Mojo, now these numbers, of course, are off the internet and they're from Box Office Mojo, so accuracy, you have to take that into account. But the first one made, according to it, on $325,000, H1 Halloween, the first classic one, and it made $47 million at the box office. H2 Halloween 2 was $2.5 million, and it made $25 million, $533,000. So H3 apparently, now these are estimates, of course, because of IMDb, so take them as you will, had the same budget as Halloween 2. And Dawn, how much do you think Halloween 3 made?
I have no idea. $2.
$2. Glenn, can you?
700,000.
It made $14.4 million, but
Why?
it made half of the second Halloween budget. gross, I should say. So the fans weren't happy with this film either. And props to those who find a lot of great stuff in it. And I found bits and pieces, but for the most part, for me, yeah, this was tough. So, Dawn, is there anything we haven't talked about that you maybe wanted to bring up yet? Or do you think we covered it pretty good?
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, probably more so than many people out there. Glenn, anything you might want to bring up or talk about at all?
Regards to this film. No. In that case, no.
Then, yeah, I think we've covered it pretty well. So we're going to go down now as we do with these special series, and it's a third time's a charm episode, so you can probably guess our feelings on it, but let's get official on record here. Dawn is third time's a charm.
Nope.
Glenn, how about you? Third time a charm?
Hell no.
And that's all three of us. Third time's not a charm. I tried really hard. I did. Derek and Scott, God bless you guys, and all my other friends who just love this film. I am glad you can find enjoyment in it. I wish I could see the film through your eyes, because for me, watching it the second time, while I did find a few more things to appreciate, third time was not a charm for me, and I think it will be a while before I revisit this film again, if at all, in all honesty. So there you go, folks. There you have it. Third time's a charm. Halloween 3, it wasn't really a charm for any of us. So if you did enjoy Halloween 3, more power to you. Total respect for that. But, different strokes for different folks, I guess. And we're going to wrap it up now, and this is where we could go down the aisle real quick and find out where you can find my fellow crew members when they are not talking at me here. So, Dawn, where can they find you at?
You can find me in the audience.net or, at your local indie horror film fest.
Yes, like the Northeast Wisconsin Film Festival happening this weekend.
Exactly like that one.
October 14th, 15th, Oshkosh, Wisconsin. If you're in the Great Cheesehead State, come and see it. Glenn, how about you? Where can they find you at, sir?
You can find me on Facebook with the B-Movie Bunker, YouTube with the B-Movie Bunker, guyinabunker.com. Follow me on Twitter at guyinabunker. Check out my gaming podcast, The Adventure Party, at gncast.com.
Awesome. And thank you to Jason Hamilton for tuning in and listening. He was our listener. He actually made it through the whole episode. More power to you, mad respect. And also we had a few other viewers pop in. So always glad to hear your thoughts. Please head on over to Special Mark Productions Facebook group and let your voice be heard. Let us know what you thought of these episodes and such. We appreciate you listening to this. Hope everyone is having a great Halloween horror season so far. Next week, stay tuned for our Faves of the Fest. I am so looking forward to being at this horror festival in Wisconsin. That is, once again, the Northeast Wisconsin Film Festival, the Horror Film Festival, or the New Horror Fest, if you will. Check it out at newhorrorfest.com, I believe the address is, and check it out there. And if you're in our Great Cheesehead State, stop on by, because many of the Spoiler Room crew members will be on hand. So thank you for listening, folks. Now say goodbye, everyone.
Goodbye, everyone.
21 days to Halloween, Halloween, Halloween. 21 days to Halloween, Silver Shamrock.